Hey guys, YouTube Cat here, and I need to quickly talk about some of the new skill gems. Now, I'm going to start off by just talking a lot about Bane and Soul Rend, and then I'm going to talk about the other things. So first off, Bane. Now, I said before they released the gems, I was expecting Bane to have kind of like 400 base, and if it had like 800 base, it would be broken. They gave it 1k base damage, which is a lot. Also, thank you very much for them 10 gifted subs then. So, basically, to put this into context, Essence Drain has 1.5k base damage, and Bane applies your curses. Now, people are saying things like doing silly things with like 6 curses or whatever. If you're playing a Chaos degen build, you don't want more than 3 or 4. So the way it works is Bane is your main link, and then for each curse linked to Bane, you gain 47% more damage, and that's curse applied to the enemy, so you have to be able to apply that many. So you do Bane, Despair, Temp Chains in order of importance, then Enfeeble, right? Now, if you wanted to add a 4th curse, which would be your 5th link, you'd probably run Poachers, because then you get Frenzy Charge generation and increased Flask Charge generation. Alternatively, you could do Warlord's Mark for like Endurance charges, but really you only need 3 curses, right? The other thing which is worth noting is how the base duration works with Bane. So comparing this to Corsica, which I played a lot of last league, killed Uber Elder, did all the content with it, Corsica lasts for 4 seconds, and I thought that was broken. With like all my investment, everything, it lasts for like roughly 4-ish seconds. I'm like, this is so good because I need to attack once every 4 seconds. And I was like, this is insane, right? Now, this lasts for 2. So it lasts for 2 seconds, but has 50% increased debuff duration per curse. So let's say you apply 3 curses. That goes 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So if you have 3 curses in a 4 link, it will last for 5 seconds without any other investment. You could push it up to 6 if you ran 4 curses, but let's say you just use 3, right? So that's 5 seconds. Now, you can very easily get 20% increased skill effect duration from the new aura Malevolence. If you're using Bane, then you're going to have stuff like Hexmaster on the tree. You're going to have roughly about 100% increased skill effect duration. Now, that skill effect duration won't scale the 5. It will scale the base, which is 2. So now you're looking at like 6-ish% duration of Bane. You also need to keep in mind that you'll have some more increased skill effect duration somewhere on gear, somewhere else. And you also need to keep in mind, 7 apparently, sorry, according to chat, that Temp Chains makes debuffs expire slower on enemies. Basically, what I'm trying to say to you is without really trying, you can have Bane last for over 10 seconds. That's really good. If you use Bane as your main skill, then you only need to cast it once every 10 seconds while bossing, meaning that gives you 10 seconds to dodge. Realistically, that means it gives you 10 seconds to use other skills like Corsica, Essence Drain, or Soul Rend, which I'll get to in a second. Now, some people think that this is a bit of a noob trap. Now, this does ridiculous damage and will kill everything, but even if you think it's kind of underwhelming and you can't understand why people are super excited for it, if you were to just compare this to Orb of Storms, right? So Orb of Storms, if you did like an Orb of Storms curse on hit setup for like EE or whatever kind of build, right? Now, imagine if Orb of Storms did like half to 2/3 of the damage of your main skill and applied all of your curses for over 10 seconds, and the boss doesn't even need to stay within the effect. You just need to tag them with it. That's pretty good. Like, that's very slightly okay. So Bane is definitely worth building around. And yeah, getting on to the next one is Soul Rend. So Soul Rend has 2k base damage, well, 1,944. I'm just going to say 2k, it's cleaner. That's slightly okay. Again, compare it to stuff like Essence Drain, 1.5k, compare it to stuff like Corsica. This is a lot of damage. This is so much damage that you don't need to use anything else with it. But if you want to, you can use Bane with it, and suddenly you have a lot of damage going on. Now, in comparison to Bane lasting for a very, very long time, Soul Rend lasts for a very short time at 0.4 seconds. Now, I drew something slightly earlier in Paint. So this here is Soul Rend. So Soul Rend is a projectile and it homes and hits enemies, right? So you shoot it and it's like, wee, wiggle, 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 hitting all the enemies. Now, the way that Soul Rend works, if you read the gem, is it applies, as the projectile travels, it repeatedly applies a short but powerful chaos damage over time to each enemy in an area around it. So, you shoot the projectile, and then as the projectile's traveling, it's constantly refreshing the damage over time in the small area around it. So even though it's only 0.4 seconds base, it's like 0.4 seconds base, 0.4 seconds, 0.4, it like keeps rapidly replying. It's very similar to Ball Lightning in that sense. So if you understand how Ball Lightning works, you understand how this works. Now, unlike Ball Lightning, you won't get loads of damage, like crazy stacking it. It just means you'll have better uptime on the debuff, and again, that will be scaled up by skill effect duration and stuff like temp chains. Going slower proj won't give you more damage, it means that you need to cast less often. So you either need to use slower proj, so you cast less often, or you need to cast Soul Rend more frequently, so you're always applying the debuff, if that makes sense. Okay. Right. It does stupid damage. It also has very good base damage. 672 base damage with 5% crit, and apparently 100% effect. Well, no, it will have 100% effectiveness because it's not listed, is really good. The cast time is quite slow at 0.8. For context, old Essence Drain was 0.75. It's now 0.7. So 0.8 is a bit on the slow side. But keep in mind, you're probably going to play this on like a Trickster. That's okay. And it does like crazy damage. So if you're thinking about doing a Essence Drain build, personally, I would throw that in the bin and play a Soul Rend build. If you enjoyed my Course Guy build from last league, it will still be good this league, but Soul Rend and Bane will be a lot better, in my opinion. And also keep in mind, you can use Soul Rend, Essence Drain, and Bane all together and be in for some really good times. Getting into the other new skills, we have Divine Ire. Divine Ire is really good, and the first thing I thought of when I read this was doing some Stormfire Ignite setups. So it does damage to enemies, base of 210, the same base as Incinerate for context, and whenever you damage 5 nearby enemies, you gain a stage, and you gain a stage when you hit a rare or unique enemies. Now it goes up to 20 stages, and you're like, okay, so it has a base, and then it gains damage for each stage, has a max of 20 stages, and then when you release all your stages, it shoots a big laser beam. Makes sense. Well, if you actually read what it does, Beam deals 70% more damage with ailments per stage. So 70 times 20 is 1,400. So this has 1,400% more ignite damage at max stages, but it gets better. So Beam deals 100% more damage with hits per stage. Okay, so then you go 100 times 20, or times 9. Oh, quick maths, update, apparently. Rory confirmed they nerfed it, now it only has 10 stages. So apparently they changed it mid-development. So now it has 700% more ignite damage. Quick correction, thanks Twitch chat. And it has 1,000 more damage. That makes it seem a lot less ridiculous. Because I was like, wait, this is going to have like 3,400% more ignite damage? That's cray. You half it, it still does a lot of damage. This is still a really good skill. I'm so glad that Rory correction snuck in on time. Thank you. That's really, really good. Yeah. Whew. Wave of Conviction. Wave of Convictions deals... Chat's now arguing that it has between 10 and 20. Whichever way it works, it's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to be really good, and it's going to be sick on totems. I'm not re-recording. Wave of Conviction. Wave of Conviction has crazy base AoE. To confirm, max AoE at 10 stages, max damage at 20 stages. It's 20 stages. To confirm, sorry, YouTube people, Reddit people cannot read. So just to continue this point, Reddit cannot read, and this is why being a streamer is difficult. Has 20 stages. So, Wave of Conviction. Wave of Conviction has a base of 972 to 1,459 physical damage, which is a lot of damage. Like, a lot of damage. It's then got the Fizz to Fire, Fizz to Lightning conversion built in there, and then it applies Exposure. It's really good. I think Wave of Conviction at 100% is fine. You'll be absolutely no problemo going with this. We don't know how this will work with totems. We don't know how this will work with traps. We don't know how this will work with mines. We have to play it, but it will definitely be good if you want to play it. Now, Purifying Flame, however, will work with totems, will work with traps, will work with mines, and will be really good with all of those sources. So the way that it works is it fires a damage in a line, creates consecrated ground, and deals damage in an area around the target location. A larger shockwave then expands outwards, damaging enemies standing on consecrated ground that were not already hit. The more consecrated ground you have, the more like AoE you have. The way I read that. So if you have like totems, if you have mines, if you have traps, loads of consecrated ground, very big AoE. I think the other abilities are better. I think Wave of Conviction and Divine Eye are better, but it still has good damage. It still has conversion built in. It's got a bunch of AoE stuff going on. It has a bunch of plus radius of consecrated ground if you care about consecrated ground. It's definitely going to be good. Basically, all of the new skills, if you pick any of them, you'll have a good build. If you pick Soul Rend or Bane, you'll definitely have a good build. Getting into the new auras, I was predicting they'd have about 20% more damage, so they're comparable to Wrath. Zealotry gives you 15% more spell damage, and chance to create consecrated ground, which lasts for 8 seconds. Very good. I would actually run this in some dot-based builds. If you use Devouring Diadem, EB Mom, you could run both Zealotry and Malevolence and Discipline with a Dread Banner in the helmet if you take a little bit of aura investment on the tree, and that's probably what I'm going to do. So with both of those together, you have 15% more spell damage, 20%, so that's 35% more spell damage. And also keep in mind everything I said earlier about Bane and Soul Rend. Last league, we didn't have this extra stuff, right? Like, dots are going to be, they're going to be slightly okay. Malevolence is more interesting in my opinion because it also gives you skill effect duration, and skill effect duration is a very fun stat. We've seen the reworked Holy Flame Totem before. I think it will actually be pretty solid. I'd be tempted to play it on a Chieftain, just so you get the easy 100% Fizz to Fire conversion without using Avatar of Fire. Then you can still use loads of like extra added as Chaos sources. Another decent thing about Chieftain is Chieftain has totems are immune to fire damage. So if you're 100% fire and chaos damage, you can run Reflect maps without being annoyed. I hate running Reflect maps on totems. The new Stormburst seems interesting because I believe it will scale with skill effect duration because it has the duration tag. And having loads of duration with Stormburst seems like it could be really cool. It has a base duration of 1.2 seconds. I could see that maybe actually being a really, really interesting skill. Maybe some Stormburst Spark memes. I'm not sure. Spark will either be amazing or trash. It just depends on how the rearming works. But I'm feeling very confident about both of the rework skills. Getting into the support gems. Intensify support is cool. Basically, what happens is supported spells, skills that you cast yourself, so it cannot be supported on triggered, vial skills, channels, blah, blah, blah. Right? So, you gain more damage per intensity, you have less area of effect per intensity, and that is a multiplier, so that's like a lot less AoE, and this has 4 stacks. And you lose a stack every 0.25 seconds while moving or immediately if you teleport. So if you're just running through the map normally, this is an increased AoE gem, and it's just increased AoE, no damage, right? If you're standing still, casting on a rare or casting on a boss, then that increased AoE will slowly go down and down and down, and you're going to gain ramping damage. So 16, 32, goes up to 4, 64% more damage while at max stacks. Pretty good. Pretty good. Going into Unleash. Unleash gives you some pretty good stuff. So, again, cannot be used on triggers, totems, all of that stuff. The way this one works is supported spells gain a seal every 0.71 seconds to a maximum of 3. Okay. Supported spells are unsealed when cast, and their effects reoccur for each seal loss. Supported skills deal 26 less when reoccurring. That's not 26 less for each, just 26% less for all of the reoccurring. Think of it kind of like Spell Echo, so you'd run this instead of Spell Echo. You could run both. I imagine most people run this instead. So let's say you used Fireball. It's like you cast Fireball, and then you slowly build up stages, and then suddenly you unleash a bunch of Fireballs all at the same time, and it will look really cool. It reminds me of the old Ellie Shaman Master in World of Warcraft. Should look really, really cool. There might be some interesting things going on where like you pre-ramp it before bosses and rares, and you have like these skill gem swaps where people go like full min-max for like those Shaper highlight videos. Very, very cool. Energy Leech support. I don't understand why this exists, because we have Energy Shield Leech on like 3 clusters on the passive skill tree. They keep showing us like all of these items with Energy Shield Leech. We have more Energy Shield Leech than we could ever need. So the gem itself gives you 1.9% of damage Leech's Energy Shield. Note, that isn't spells, so you could do this for attacks as well. Supported skills deal 24% more damage while on full Energy Shield. So if you're at full Energy Shield, you're not leeching, 24% more damage. Supported skills deal 39% more damage while leeching. These don't stack because your leech turns off when you're at full. But this is still a support gem, which gives you 39% more damage while leeching, and 24% most of the time. That's really, really, really good. This is a very big gem for something kind of like Hauer CI Jug, because you can use this and damage on full life and have 2 super generic support gems. This is good for any CI attack-based build. This is like really good. This is like, I don't understand. We don't even need the gem, and even if the gem did exist, I don't know why it does so much damage. This is like ridiculous. Then we have Infused Channeling, which is the rework Storm Barrier. Again, doesn't work on totems, so it will only work on you, won't work on trigger, all that other stuff. Right. Infusion lasts 6 seconds after you finish channeling. Okay, so the buff lasts for 6 seconds. Gain Infusion after channeling a supported skill for at least 0.6. So if you channel for 0.6 seconds, you gain this buff for 6. This will nearly always be up. Supported skills deal 39% more damage. Instant. 39% more damage regardless of anything. Very, very strong. Also, it has duration, so this will scale with any skill effect duration you have. Also very good. Right. While channeling, supported skills take 8% less physical damage from hits. Now that's only while channeling, so this won't persist for the 6 seconds after from the way I read this. Infusion grants an additional 10% more damage of types matching supporting skill gems tags. So for example, let's say using Blight, you would have 10 plus 39, this would be a 49% more damage multiplier, basically a no-brainer for any channeled skill. And it will also give you, while channeling, take 8% less damage from hits of types matching the skill gems tags. So, if you had this again with Blight, while channeling, you take 8% less chaos, 8% less physical. If you use this with Stormburst, it would be 8% less physical, 8% less lightning while channeling, and then you gain the 49% buff while you have the stuff. So yeah. Really good. Really, really good. Really, really, really good. You could use this, like, if you did a Blight build, if you did a Soul Rend or a Bane build, you could use this as, like, a mini Arcane Surge. So if you had to, like, self-cast Bane or self-cast Wither, you could use it just to gain this, like, Infusion buff, which lasts for a base 6. Again, if you're doing a dot build, you'll have a lot of skill effect duration. You could easily make this last close to 10 seconds. You could have this, Bane, all these, like, really, really strong things. Very, very good. TLDR, the new supports are pretty sick. The new skills are really, really sick. Soul Rend and Bane, fuego, my boys. Fuego. Reddit still can't read. Tarke video. By the way, thanks for putting up with that weird awkward bit around stages. 20 stages. Have a good day. Bye-bye.